Hello everyone, today we will have two interesting stories. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell everyone my story. I don't even know where to start, but I'll start from the beginning. I am 30 years old. I would like to share my difficult life situation. Perhaps my story will help people not to make such mistakes. I am a rich man. The business passed to me from my father. When I was young, I used to throw parties a lot. So, I was looking for a quiet girl to start a family. I'm very jealous, so I needed a girl who would stay at home and give birth to my heirs. I have enough money to support a girl. One day I was driving about my business. It was raining outside. There was a beautiful girl standing on the road. I drove into a puddle and poured mud on her. I stopped and approached the girl. I was so ashamed. The girl was all wet from head to toe. She said her name was Wendy. I offered to give her a ride home, to which Wendy immediately agreed. It turned out that Wendy lived on the outskirts of the city in a small house with an elderly mother. My new friend invited me to have a cup of coffee. Out of politeness, I decided to go to her house. They lived in poverty, and it was clear that Wendy had money problems. While I was sitting and waiting for a cup of coffee, I got into conversation with Wendy's mother. She turned out to be a very nice girl. Wendy's mother worked as a nurse at a local children's hospital. Wendy's mother told me that Wendy is 21 years old and she will graduate from the institute soon. Wendy's father was an alcoholic and died a long time ago. Wendy entered the room and the smell of fragrant coffee wafted through the room. I noticed that she is a very beautiful young girl with a kind smile. Although I'm not used to such a poor interior, I felt comfortable in this house. As it turned out, Wendy is a very wonderful hostess. She brought cookies that she baked herself. The cookies were very tasty. The taste of childhood. I think many people will understand me. I stayed up late at Wendy's house waiting out the rain. A few days had passed. I couldn't get Wendy out of my head. I realized I had to keep talking to her. So after work, I went to Wendy's house. Wendy greeted me very warmly and we went for a walk. Our meetings had become regular. I can't say I'm head over heels in love with her, but this girl suited me in many criteria. She was economic, sweet, calm. It flashed through my mind that this is exactly the girl I was looking for. A year later, Wendy and I got married. Wendy stayed at home and did all the housework the way I wanted. A little time passed and we had a son. I was very happy. But my wife's behavior has changed a lot. My wife, after she gave birth to my child, felt that she had more rights. Wendy began to show her character. Wendy is tired of staying at home. She wanted to find a job. Wendy and I used to fight a lot. As a result, I resigned myself and agreed to let Wendy go to work. Compared to other girls, my wife gave me confidence. At first, nothing foreshadowed trouble. But over time, I began to notice that my wife had changed even more. She began to dress provocatively and behave rudely. I didn't like it very much, but I put it all down to my wife's youth. After all, my wife is 9 years younger than me. One day I was at home playing with my son. Wendy warned me this morning that she had a banquet at work. Wendy's boss's birthday banquet. I wasn't thrilled with this information, but I let her go to the banquet. And then I saw something that shocked me. My wife came home very drunk. She entered the house and went to the bedroom. When she was walking, she fell, holding on to everything she could. My wife didn't pay any attention to me or our son. I wanted to make a scandal right here, but I didn't do it in the presence of a child. I took my son to his room, read him a fairy tale, and he fell asleep. After that, I went to our bedroom. When I entered the bedroom, I saw that my wife was sleeping right in her clothes. I decided to undress her and postpone our conversation until tomorrow. When I took off her jeans, I was shocked. I saw that my wife came from a corporate party without panties. At that moment, I thought, why did she take off her panties at a corporate party? I immediately started waking her up and screaming. Wendy didn't understand anything because she was very drunk. This infuriated me even more. In the end, I got the truth out of her. My wife cheated on me with her boss. It turns out they had an affair for a long time. My wife wanted new sensations. My ego was hurt. I would never have thought that such a quiet girl. A girl who bakes delicious cookies can behave like the last whore. Wendy made a horned deer out of me, despite the fact that I did everything for her. After all, we have a son. Meanwhile, I sent Wendy back to her mother's house. I decided to give her the opportunity to live without me and understand what she has lost. I will never give her my son. This is my sad situation. I'm going to give advice to men. Keep your wives in a tight grip. It's worth relaxing a little. They immediately look for adventures on the side. I definitely decided for myself that I definitely don't need a cheating wife. I'm already very sorry that I didn't draw up a prenuptial agreement, but I hired the best lawyer. Thank God I can afford it. My lawyer filed a lawsuit for divorce and for the child to stay with the father, since my wife leads an amoral lifestyle. But also, of course, the fact that I have the best conditions for a child's life. I'm going to leave my wife penniless and send her to the hole I took her from. As a result, the trial ended in my favor. My wife tried to come back. She came and begged for forgiveness. She tried to put pressure on me through her mother and our child. She was trying to cause pity, but it doesn't work with me. I'm happy that I have a son, and I don't need anyone else. Maybe in time I'll find some girl, but I'm not even thinking about it yet. Sometimes it seems to me that girls will soon be needed only for procreation. As soon as the girl gives birth to your child, you can immediately say goodbye to her, because the girl is no longer suitable for family life. Men don't have to repeat my mistakes. With that, I think we can end. How do you like my story? If you liked it, please like it. Could you write a comment? What do you think about this? But before we move on to the opinion of the author of the channel, we will have a second short story. So go ahead. Hello, I have such a story. If it was treason or not, I do not know. But the suspicions are serious. My wife and I have been married for 8 years. We have a child. I am 30 years old. My wife is 29 years old. There were almost no problems in our relationship. There were small quarrels, but we quickly eliminated them. The wife is quite modest, does not flirt with other men. She very rarely went to nightclubs and bars. As a result, the new year is approaching. My wife is planning a corporate party. I treated it normally, even supported my wife, and let her go to rest. My wife said she would be home by 11 p.m. Anyway, my wife was going to a party. I noticed what a short dress my wife was wearing. I was joking about the dress. My wife replied coquettishly that you bought me this dress yourself. She laughed, called a taxi, and drove away. I'm calling my wife on my cell phone. My wife's drunken voice replies that she is still resting. Okay, I thought. I call again at 12 o'clock. My wife's mobile phone is unavailable. I've been calling my wife for an hour, but to no avail. At 2 a.m., my wife picks up the phone. Her voice is very drunk. I hear men's voices, although, according to her, she should have female company. I asked, what's going on? She told me she was resting and laughing into my phone. She said it was all right. She said she loved me and would be coming home soon. As a result, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I call my wife again. She picks up the phone. I can tell by her voice that she is very drunk. She couldn't say a single word, but I realized that my wife was calling a taxi and going home. An hour later, a Mercedes pulls up to the house. This is clearly not a taxi. I watch the Mercedes for 15 minutes. As a result, my drunk wife gets out of the Mercedes. I open the door and look at the painting. The wife is not just drunk, she looks like a zombie. All disheveled tights and stretch marks, makeup smeared on the face. My wife tells me she loves me and laughs stupidly all the time. She smelled of men's perfume. I ask, what does all this mean? In response, I get that she was resting. After each of her answers, she laughed hysterically. My wife starts pestering me with a hint to have sex. I refused her and replied that we would talk tomorrow. Here I sit today and think, was there treason or not? It took 2 months before I wrote this story. I hired a private investigator to help me deal with this situation. I was shocked. Now I will briefly tell you what happened. Sutra. When my wife woke up, she apologized for her behavior. We talked, and everyone calmed down. She denied cheating. She said, I was paranoid. But come on, I kept silent and did not develop our conflict. The only thing I noticed was that my wife started staying late at work. One day, I asked her for a mobile phone to call my friend. She really didn't want to put her mobile phone in my hands. But in the end, she gave up and gave me her phone. I took the number, dialed it, and went to another room to talk on the phone. She stood up abruptly and followed me. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I asked my wife, "Why are you following me?" At that moment, she was very scared. In response, I heard, "You have already talked. Give me back my mobile phone." I returned her phone and immediately realized that there was something bad on her mobile phone and she wanted to hide it. I understood that after I returned her phone to her, she would delete all the evidence, so I turned to a detective. Every week, the detective showed me a picture of my wife and boyfriend in this Mercedes. And then one day, my wife says that she's going on a small business trip for 3 days. I immediately informed the detective. Then the worst thing happened. Even though I already understood everything and pretended that everything was fine, a detective called me and said that my wife was staying at the hotel with this guy and another girl. I quickly packed up, took our child to the mother, and moved to the place. After my arrival, the detective already knew which room they were in. He said that now you'll catch her on the hot, and he will do his job 100%. Only it remains to wait a little and not scare my wife away. I sat in the car for 30 minutes and went to their room. When I got to the room, I heard moans, and not only from my wife. I pulled the door handle. I was lucky the door to the room was unlocked. When I got inside, I was shocked. My wife had sex with a guy and another girl. They used intimate toys. I can't describe the whole picture to you, but it was like a human centipede. My wife saw me and froze. The guy smiled and invited me to join them. God, I didn't have just words. I didn't expect to see this. I told my wife not to come home, turned around and got ready to leave. My wife ran after me in tears. She was running naked, covering herself with a towel and begging for forgiveness, trying to stop me. I turned around and shouted to her not to stop me from leaving, not to stop me from leaving. I pushed her away and left the hotel. Then I paid off my detective. I got in the car and drove to the nearest bar. I couldn't wrap my head around what had happened to me. I sat and just drank whiskey until morning. My mobile phone was bursting with calls from my wife. When I got home, I was already calm. My wife was waiting for me on the doorstep of our house. She begged me to forgive her, but I decided that I would file for divorce. Then my wife asked me not to tell her parents about her sexual experience, to which I replied that I would think about it. I packed my things and went to my mother. I spent 2 days with my baby and mom. We were roasting meat on the grill. All this time, I was thinking what to do with my wife. As it turned out, my wife decided to try something new. She met a couple who have had sex with other couples or with one man or girl. In general, I decided to divorce my wife. I told the whole truth in court, and all her relatives found out about it. The decision was not entirely in my favor. The child was left to my wife, but I often come and spend time with the child. I help financially. My wife does not give up trying to return our relationship, but I decided for myself not to let this person into my life anymore. My wife's parents are on my side. My wife got a lot of stress and goes to a therapist. That's the whole story, friends. What can you say about this? If you liked it, please like it. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. Opinion of the author of the channel. Before I say a word, I want all men to be happy, so that men follow our stories and don't make mistakes. They gave advice to our storytellers and shared their experiences. In both situations, the girls wanted new sensations. By the way, this is a big minus not only for girls, but also for men. People get used to one thing and they begin to have thoughts about trying something new. This is especially true for sex. If you take the relationship in the first situation, then the girl did not appreciate what she had. I think she deserved to be punished. The right decision of a man is not to stand on ceremony with girls, especially if the girl cheated on you. You need to say goodbye to such a girl immediately. The fact is that the girl was a gray mouse. It doesn't solve anything. There is such a saying. There are devils in a quiet pool, so you have to be very careful. In the second situation, to be honest, I very rarely drink. I really don't like drunk people. When I read this story at the moment when his wife fell into an inappropriate state and laughed like crazy, then I couldn't stand it and threw her things away. But it's me. I'm very glad that in the second situation, the man decided to divorce his wife. This is the right choice. He got a second chance at a new life. Children are the meaning of life. Both men are great that they support communication with children and help financially. In general, I want to wish everyone the strength to survive this. Ask for support from friends or a good psychotherapist, but I think they'll get over it anyway and start a new life. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.